and welcome back to my channel everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this vintage heart shaped cake decorated with some buttercream and bean paste flowers. Also I'll be showing you a couple of different types of basic flower piping using both buttercream and bean paste and talk about pros and cons of using both of these mediums as well. Alright, let's begin with the video. Okay you guys, so if you do not have a heart-shaped cake pan like I do, bake all your cake layers in a round tin and then you can cut two sides of the cake and attach it with some buttercream onto the top part of the cake to get the shape of the heart. You can follow the steps I've shown in this video. All I've done is mark 4 quarters on the cake and cut two sides on an angle to meet the marks that I have made and cut it on angle to get the bottom part of the heart. The two pieces that I have cut, I attached it onto the top of the cake with some buttercream and gently pressed it to get the curvy shape of the heart. Alright guys, on to piping some flowers. Now the first flower is an abstract flower. I have an image and sort of like imaginary flower petal which I want to put onto the cake board. So it's not going to be a complete flower, it's just petals here and there. I'm using bean paste for this, and for the petals I'm using Korean tip, that is 125K, and for the stamens I'm using round tip, that is Wilton number 3. I'll put all the nozzle tips that I used to pipe these flowers in the description box. I'm piping a rose. Now I piped a big blob of paste into a cone shape and I'm using first petals. The smaller petals are 102 Wilton, that is a smaller tip. I'm going up and down motion and couple of layers from that, and then I'm switching to Wilton 123, that is a bigger tip. Again the same motion, up and down, up and down. Now practice makes it perfect, so I am still practicing. Some flowers I get it right and some I don't. So it takes a lot of practice to pipe a flower. Alright, here I'm piping some wildflowers as per my reference pictures. Now these are sort of buds. I'm using 102 tip to pipe sort of a teardrop and 103 for the petals. I'm piping a tiny bit of that, the pink color, just to give the idea of a blooming bud. Now just to give you a quick look at how I color my bean paste. Now I don't like a singular color base. I want layers of shades in one color to pipe flowers. This gives a nice depth and natural look to the flower petal. So to do that, you have your base color and then you're gonna add a little bit of the same color or a lighter or a darker shade, and you make sure that you do not mix that completely into the base color. So ever so lightly you mix the color so that you can see the streaks of layers of colors here and there. Even the blue, I'm taking little bit of purple color and adding that to the blue side, making sure that it is not completely mixed into the blue. Okay, here I'm piping another bean paste flower and I'm using 124K Korean tip for the flower petals. Now if you look at the flower petals, you can see nice layers of colors in the petals, and it gives a nice depth to the flower petals and make it more natural. That's all because of the way we mix the colors. Okay, this is sort of a wildflower. Now for the stem I'm using spaghetti. I've boiled some spaghetti and let it dry, and I'm using a Wilton round tip to pipe the buttercream onto the stem. For the flower petal I'm using Wilton 107L. You could also use 129 as well. Now these flowers are piped with Italian meringue buttercreams. For the flower petal I'm using Wilton 102, and for the white flower, for the main, the big flower petal I'm using Korean tip, that is 124K, and for the little ones in the middle I'm using Wilton 102. Alright, I'm ready to decorate this cake, and my cake is really chilled now. So I have some leftover buttercream colored into subtle shades of green, pink and shades of purple. That is my color palette. So I have my reference picture. I'm going according to that, and I'm going after a very smudgy watercolor effect. Once I mix my colors, I have my palette knife. I'm using that to pick a little bit of green and mix it with little bit of pink or purple, and applying a thin layer of that on top of the cake and around the cake, and making sure the colors are mixed, but still you can see separate colors of pink and shades of green, and it gives a smudgy watercolor effect. A quick and useful tip when you go to decorate cakes with lot of piped flowers like this, you can make the flowers a week ahead or couple of days ahead and freeze it. Whether it's any kind of buttercream flowers or bean paste flowers, it won't go bad as long as you pipe it and freeze it. The day you're going to decorate the cake, you can take it out. Since the flowers are frozen, it gives you time to manipulate the flower arrangements the way you want, because it's frozen. You don't have to worry about the petal getting squashed or melting. So to quickly talk about bean paste and buttercream. Now bean paste is a very long process to make, and whereas buttercream, any sort of buttercream, you can whip it up very easily. Bean paste has a very short shelf life. You can't keep it outside more than a day, it's gonna go bad. Whereas buttercream, you can keep it out, nothing will happen, or you can put it in the refrigerator for weeks, it won't go bad. So, and when you're coloring both of these mediums, I love bean paste. A small drop goes a long way. Even if it's a darker shade or a lighter shade, it absorbs color really nicely, and you get really gorgeous colors, earthy colors. Buttercream, if you are coloring for a darker shade, you'll have to use quite a lot of food gel color to get that darker shade. And when you're working with buttercream, you need to work in a temperature controlled room, because if it's melting, it won't hold the shape of your flower petals. Whereas bean paste, even if you work for hours, the petals will hold its shape because it's a very thick paste. And I love the fact that I can manipulate the petals. So those are the ups and downs depending on your end product or where you stay, the temperature. You can pick and choose the medium that you like to use to pipe your flowers. Here I've got some colored spaghetti strands. I've boiled and dried them. I'm using them to get the effect of vines and stems. You could also use rice noodles. This just gives a dreamy, natural look to the cake. Here I have printed out the message that goes on the cake to an edible wafer paper, and I've mixed some colors with oil, and I'm coloring the wafer paper to get the old vintage look. That is the whole look of the cake that I'm going after. Now this way of writing a message and putting it onto the cake is a fancy way to do that, rather than the old school way of piping the message directly onto the cake. Alright, I'm giving my final touches to the cake. Now I'm coloring all my flower petals and leaves again, and just to add highlights to that. Now by doing this step, you're gonna add more depth to your flower petals, and also it's gonna look more natural. Alright you guys, here we are with the finished cake. I am in love with the color palette. It does really bring out that old vintage look for the cake. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a few things along the way. I'll be seeing you guys soon with another one. Until then, take care, you guys.